At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I'm doing everything I can. Now stop calling me Shirley.
The center has to be at least 3 times bigger than this.
All right, Sincerely Unqualified. I'm Kevin. That's Winnie. Today we are doing what I think is an underrated movie in Get Him to the Greek. The Russell Brand, Jonah Hill duo. We're going to get into it. First of all, Winnie, how's it going? How have we been?
Happy belated Valentine's Day to you, Kev.
Oh, thank you so much.
I know that, we weren't getting each other gifts this year. And
I got you a gift.
That's remaining true. Oh, you did?
Yeah. No, it should be in the mail tomorrow. So it's going to be out Tuesday, Wednesday. It should get there.
Californians are so giving.
Oh, well, I mean, that's what we do. Winnie is my Valentine, so I wanted to make sure to get you something nice, but stay under the $20 rule that we established.
Yeah. Okay, well, one thing. Okay, so when someone says, we're not doing gifts, your reaction to do gifts or to not do gifts? Because mine is always to do gifts, no matter if they say, we're not doing gifts. It's always going to be, let's rip gifts.
Yeah, I think that's probably very common. I think when people hear "don't give me a gift," you at least get something small.
Well, because I hear it as "don't give me a gift," and it's I
don't want anything for
of course I don't want anything.
Yeah, come on. No, I think that it's always warranted. I'm in a very unique situation that's just too boring to explain, that I'm actually I didn't get an actual gift. Maybe I'll run out and grab flowers or something.
Okay.
But that situation actually has to do with the fact that we just moved in. So if you're watching, I mean, I just have a plain background anyways normally, but
it's immaculate. It looks really good. I like what you're doing with the place so far.
Oh, well, actually, everything. We even have all the decorations up. But we started Thursday, moved all day Friday. Oh, I know.
That was sarcastic about the blank wall behind you. But I actually do like what you've done with the place. Otherwise, I got a quick tour before this. I actually genuinely you're becoming a real person, and it shows by the decor you've chosen.
Well, that's what happens when you live with your significant other. Yeah,
instead of just making furniture out of any box that comes in the mail.
Any box.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So we were moving, did the whole thing, got a U-Haul. I mean, also locally. So I'm around the Orange County area, California now. The one thing that I need to say about moving is this happened to me, just quick story time. So, well, first of all, have you ever been in a U-Haul? Have you ever been in a huge truck?
No, I thought you meant the back of it. I was like, yeah, I mean, I haven't been in the back of a U-Haul. No, I haven't. Yeah. Okay. No, I actually haven't.
Okay. So neither have I. Well, actually, no, I was in one, but it doesn't matter. So I rent this U-Haul. I go out. It starts out, I'm at the counter. There are some guys probably around my age just kind of hanging out, being dudes, helping me out get this truck. So they're just okay, go through our little warehouse where they keep all the dollies and everything. So I would say it's around a normally 30-second walk to get to your truck. So I get to the truck, I got the keys, I'm ready to go. And then I start trying to put the keys into the ignition and it just won't go. I'm like, what the heck? I also realized that it said something about the airbags right next to the ignition, which I thought was weird, and which was up on the top of the dash. I was like, okay, maybe this is how U-Hauls are. I don't know. It's probably not a normal car. So really, it's just it's an entirely different world when you sit down in that thing and you're alone and you're like, oh, I've never done this before. I have no clue what's happening. So I can't get it to start. I think something's wrong. And I have to go back. And I know what's impending is that I'm going to have to tell these dudes at this counter that I can't turn the U-Haul on.
That's a good start. It's literally like a car that you have to turn on and drive away. They're the advertisement is literally $20 and you can drive away with it today.
Yep.
And you paid $20 and you couldn't drive away with it today.
It was more than $20, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I read this thing. I try to establish a rapport that I go through, can't turn it on. I think something's wrong. And then the guy just says, "Oh, are you trying to start it through the airbag ignition?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Did you?
Yeah, I think that's what's wrong. He was like, "Oh yeah, it's just like a normal car, like it's on the side." So there is this like plastic piece where you would think the ignition, where the ignition is, but the plastic, like there's plastic around it, so you can kind of grab onto the plastic itself to start it. And I thought that it was just like this random piece. I didn't know that you actually, there was a keyhole that you stuck the key into. So these people start laughing, and I'm just like, look, man, like I've never driven a U-Haul. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
what is it? Wait. So what does an airbag ignition mean? Like you almost rocked yourself in the face with the airbag?
No, it's for the passenger. I don't know if you need to like turn a key to have the passenger airbag on. Wait. So I didn't bother figuring out about this airbag
Why would that
situation.
Be the case?
Oh,
Why
I don't know.
Would that ever be the case? Like, fuck, I forgot to turn the airbags on for you guys. Like, shit.
Yeah. And although I genuinely do not care about like strangers' reactions or like what they have to say.
Oh, you do. Come on.
That's what I'm saying. When it's that situation, so like I'm not like a manly man. So these guys who have been renting out U-Hauls for probably a while are like laughing at me as I'm walking. Then I just turn around and that 30-second walk back to make sure that I can actually turn it on, it felt a little longer than 30 seconds.
I'm sure it did.
That's longer.
You went on a walk of shame with a U-Haul.
It was a walk of shame back to a giant truck.
See, Kevin's in California now. He's all about these electric cars and everything. He forgot how, car ignitions worked. So he forgot that cars used to actually have keys that go into them instead of like the push to starts, You
think I could afford a Tesla? You're crazy.
I never said Tesla. You put it in my mouth. This guy's got a Tesla.
You just said electric cars.
All right, bro. So
that's the thing.
Get him to the green.
I have a 2011 Nissan Murano. That thing is
what a car.
I got it from my mom. All right.
Let's jump in and get into the green.
Let's do it.
Let's U-Haul this conversation over to the actual movie.
I don't know. I think people might relate to that. I think so. Get him to the Greek. Let's start it out. The tomato score, comedy movies, you got to go Rotten Tomatoes. You can't really rely on, the critics. So interesting here, the critic is 72, but the audience is actually a little lower. It's at a 64, which is respectable.
That's a substantial dip, though. Like, I would say that's a way farther dip than I would think.
If I would have had to guess, I actually would have reversed them. I probably would have put the critic somewhere in the like mid 60s and then audience around like mid 70s. But it's a little lower. And this is why I think so. I mean, a little insight into how I think the movie is I think this is very underrated.
Yeah, I agree. No, after the rewatch, I completely agree with you. Like, after seeing it again, it hits so many things that I didn't remember. Like, there's so many aspects of the movie that I don't remember, because I thought about it. We watched and reviewed Forgetting Sarah Marshall a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. And obviously Aldous Snow is in that, and you think like, oh shit, Get Him to the Greek, that's the continuation film, him and Jonah Hill, blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, Infant Sorrow. You remember a few little things. Going back through, it's like, oh my God, this is actually it could have been a standalone movie. It's funny that they tie it back.
I think it is a standalone movie. I don't even think of this as a continuation at all. I think it's like in this weird cinematic universe, like this Infant Sorrow cinematic universe.
I think that, so it's in that universe. I think more than a standalone, I meant like it's a spinoff. So they took the character from that and they made the spinoff versus like, that's the thing. I never even thought of it as a spinoff, which obviously, I guess, if you think about it definitionally, if that's a word, I'm not sure we're rolling with it. I think that is like what it would be. So but I also think it stands so far on its own that it's just, it happens to be a character that's already been in a movie, if that makes sense. No, I agree. It's like, revamping all the superheroes and all of that kind of thing. Like, you do your own thing to it. So obviously it's not like a Marvel movie by any means, but they smoke a Jeffrey. It's not a Marvel movie.
we have the same thing going on. So I mean, we think it's underrated. I think that it's a very rewatchable movie. You were talking about the rewatch, and I think that's probably it. So this is one that I watched with my family a bunch when this came out. I was kind of the age to start watching this. So I've watched this movie quite a few times. It's a Gallagher favorite.
With your family, like with your whole family, you guys sat down, got popcorn, and then.
Well,
like,
I mean,
for me,
maybe like a few years after, but
yeah. No, for me, like this is certain scenes in this would be a little bit odd to watch with my family, I'd say.
Look, my family has always been very keen to watching comedies. We've been all right with watching comedies
definitely
together.
I appreciate that. 100%.
I think that I think what it is like I know what scene you're talking about probably specifically, or actually even a lot of stuff throughout it. Yeah. But I think that we're very good at just a lot of people feel really awkward when we just disassociate from each other. We're just like, you're not here.
You're all in your own separate pods for those scenes, and then you come back together. Yeah, absolutely understand. So this film was directed by Nicholas Stoller, and it was produced. So a couple producers on the film were obviously the main is Judd Apatow.
Who would have
but
guessed?
One little link to that we'll mention now to the Forgetting Sarah Marshall universe. So it was co-produced by Jason Segel. So he had his hand in this, whether you know it or not. And he helped alongside a few other writers to get into the infant sorrow aspects we'll talk about throughout. But
right. Yeah. So let's just give a quick rundown of the cast just so we're all on the same page. No spoilers, obviously.
No spoilers.
So we have Jonah Hill playing Aaron Green, Russell Brand playing Aldous Snow. That's obviously the connect between Forgetting Sarah Marshall and this movie. Mm-hmm. So Elizabeth Moss plays Jonah Hill's girlfriend. She's a doctor. Her name is Daphne Binks, which is that's kind of a crazy name, man.
I gotta say, that's a little bit. It sounds like a very Scooby-Doo name.
It does.
Like a very Scooby-Doo name.
Well, I mean, wait, Daphne. That's what you're
Daphne
thinking of.
is the Scooby-Doo name, but even Binks. No, even
Binks. Binks for
is
sure.
a very cartoon name.
But then you have Rose Byrne playing Jackie Q, who is Aldis's ex-girlfriend, kind of still around.
Yeah.
We have our man Sean Combs, P. Diddy, playing Sergio, which is Jonah Hill's boss.
Great casting.
Yes, very. We'll talk about him a lot. We have Cole Meany playing Jonathan Snow, Aldis's dad. Mm-hmm. And then we got like cameos / just like guest star appearances, I guess.
Very small roles, like a few scenes, especially, the next Aziz Ansari, Callie Hawk, Nick Kroll, Jake Johnson, Ellie Kemper, all really in one scene.
Yeah.
Just kind of that big meeting scene. The rest of the cast and the rest of the cameos that we'll list out for you are really just one scene wonders in this movie, but they're hilarious when they're in it.
Right. Yeah. So like the smaller ones, Tom Felton makes a little appearance. Pharrell Williams. Those are like kind of really small ones. Meredith Vieira, Paul Krugman, and Lars Ulrich. Lars Ulrich actually plays a decently bigger role.
Yeah, he's
kind of like an important character.
Yeah, he's Jackie Q's kind of, I wouldn't say rebound, but newfound lover.
Yeah.
And he cried for 3 days. But
as non-spoilers as possible.
I'm sorry, it's hard to resist. And then Devon McDonald played the security guard, who I thought was hilarious throughout this movie. In the few scenes that he was in, the last cast member that we'll mention is TJ Miller, who has a slightly, inflated role, but he was the hotel receptionist and heroin guy. So we'll talk.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, but we'll talk about that when we go through. So there was also supposed to be one more cameo. Katy Perry was supposed to be in the movie, and she was in the movie as a cameo by herself, but that scene was actually cut in post. So unfortunately, there was no Katy Perry appearance in the movie.
Unfortunately?
Wasn't that when Russell Brand was dating Katy Perry?
Oh, well, right? Actually, I'm not going to lie. I'm really not too good with celebrity relationships, so I have no idea. But
I just remembered that fact. Like, I didn't even look at it. I just remember them being together. No, I remember them being together at one point.
No, I do think you're right. What I want to get your take on is that unfortunate, or are we just like, oh, okay, no, Katy Perry wasn't in the movie?
I didn't want to say it was unfortunate.
You said unfortunate.
I meant that in the most...
Respectfully.
No, yeah,
I like Katy
respectfully.
Perry. I just don't think I needed to see her in this movie.
I didn't think she was necessary to be in the movie, like, as a cameo. I think that would have been maybe overkill, and everybody at the time would be like, oh my god, they're dating, and, you know, now it would have been a little bit much.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. But so you have all these people in the movie. The general, the non-spoiler overview is an ambitious executive at a record company, Aaron Green, who is Jonah Hill, gets what looks like an easy assignment. He must escort British rock legend Aldous Snow, who's Russell Brand, to LA's Greek Theater for the first stop on a lucrative comeback concert tour. Snow, however, has different plans. Learning his true love is in California, the rocker vows to win her back before starting the tour, forcing Aaron to pull out all the stops to get Snow on stage in time. So, kind of a lot going on there. Very, very based around music and the idea of a rock star.
Yeah, which I love. I love that a comedy kind of took on this spin of the rock star turned public enemy number one, the rebound effect, just really looking into like how his comeback could be and just kind of the destroyed. Like, I love that it starts with this public relations nightmare that is African child.
Oh, wait, no spoilers here. No spoilers here.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't say that's a spoiler. It's like the first scene.
It starts out with him on a downward spiral, basically.
Yeah.
That's probably another important thing to add to the non-spoiler description. Let's get people out watching this movie, which, by the way, is available for rent on wherever
Amazon
you can rent.
And I think a few other places.
Yeah.
But
on Hulu, if you have Stars, I think it's a Stars property right now.
Okay.
So.
One thing I'll say is Hulu schemes you with that. So they're like, this movie's available on Hulu Premium.
I was hyped.
And then you go and you sign up for Hulu, and then you go to try and watch it, and it's like, the Stars edition is $10 extra. Please add that to watch this movie. It's like, what do you mean? I already pay for Hulu.
Yeah, I don't have Hulu Premium. I just have the small one. Not that that's interesting to people. But in terms of just the premise versus product, this whole idea of a rock star falling and then rising, which is basically what this movie is. What did you think about it? How do we like it?
I loved the way they did it, and it wasn't so. At first, it could be looked at as Aldous Snow. If you've seen Forgetting for Sarah Marshall, as I mentioned before, it could be like, oh, is this just another cheap spin-off movie? Like they're trying to make the best out of something.
Yeah.
It, like you said before, it strays away from that so much that it's its own entity, and you forget by the end that it's even linked in any way to Forgetting Sarah Marshall. There's little quips here and there that like you might remember where the character's from, but it stands on its own so well.
Yeah,
and they do such a great job of, humanizing these people throughout all these characters. I think that it really hits where it needs to and does a great job.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that for sure. And I do think that it just, what it does is tell such a inherently different story than Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I mean, granted, rise, fall, that's what every movie does, but it's so focused on something that's kind of niche, and in the fact that it's really about this rock star, and it's about kind of not inside baseball, but we're dealing with someone at a record company trying to get a rock star to a concert. So that's very specific in its setup. So I think that that's almost why it just it just feels a lot differently, and it has a lot of heart, because I don't think that the music is necessarily woven in. I think that it definitely hits throughout. So you get your performances, but it's not really the point. Like they made an entire soundtrack, a fantastic soundtrack, by the way. But it doesn't
agree there.
Yeah, it doesn't really get woven in though. So you kind of have this standalone story between Aldous and Aaron, and then the music is kind of on the side. And if you've listened to us before, I'm a big fan of music in movies. So normally I would have actually liked to see it get woven in, but here I think it serves to having this story with a lot of heart, that it kind of stands alone. You kind of have two different things going on.
Yeah, and I think it's very different. So last week we went through Freaks and Geeks. Yeah. And Freaks and Geeks is another Apatow production. it's so different though, where we see in that music is its own character, and there was so much thought and so much emphasis on the music itself. It played its own role. It meant something in every scene. That may have been because it was a stretched out TV show. It may have been, for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
In this one, the songs are more there for, it's not to say that they don't play an important role, but they're there for the comedic value versus the actual plot value.
Right. Yeah, they definitely are there for comedic value because the songs are ridiculous, the lyrics of the songs. But I think that you were talking about the music itself is a character in Freaks and Geeks, which is very true. The music here is a product of the character, so it's not featured as much. It's a product of Aldous Snow being a rock star, and then, because these folks aren't going to do anything half-assed, let's make an entire album. Let's record these really good songs musically, just with ridiculous lyrics. That's what we got. And I'm very, very happy about it.
Can we talk about for a second, though, how impressive it is? I'm not saying that this is all Judd. I'm not saying that this is all anybody.
Yeah.
But there's two ends of the spectrum here. There's using music, like insanely great songs from the 80s and from whenever, as a character in Freaks and Geeks, to about 11 years later, creating your own soundtrack for the entirety of a movie with a fake band.
It's crazy.
That is quite a range.
Yeah, and so that's what's I think is really cool. So we have Jason Segel on as the exec producer, and you're comparing it if you compare it to Forgetting Sarah Marshall, he wrote a few songs, and they were about the Dracula musical.
Yeah.
But with Russell Brand, you take it another level. So you have these fantastic comedic actors in Jason Segel and Russell Brand that are so talented musically and can get it done. So I think that's why they saw I almost think that they saw Jason Segel's performance, and that was exactly what it needed to be in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. We know we love Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And then they were like, we created one song for Russell Brand. We didn't do enough. Let's really dig deep, and let's kind of explore what his world would be aside from his small part in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. He
was such a great character in Forgetting Sarah Marshall alone that there was almost this need to expand on.
Right.
There was a need for this movie.
Also, I realized they said small part in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. He did not play a small part. I meant in terms of just like breaking into his character, comparing it to this movie. Obviously, the movie is about him. Yeah. So,
I also just want to say, before we jump into the spoiler plot run through and our takes and everything, that I previously said in our Forgetting Sarah Marshall episode that I think Inside of You was the catchiest song that we've gotten from a comedy movie.
Yeah.
I think that after this, I'm going to have to retract that statement.
Cliffhanger.
And say...
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger.
So
let's do it.
If you haven't seen it, you got to go watch it. It's fantastic. Then check out our spoiler section where we can walk us through together. You can hear our takes, see where we're wrong, see where you think.
And also afterwards, if you're interested in the facts section, we'll do that a little bit after. We'll do Inexclusive Exclusives after our plot run through.
We have time
so
stamps.
if you want to skip through the if you haven't watched it yet, you don't want any spoilers, but you want to hear some facts about the movie, some Inexclusive Exclusives, go through that. You could come back to our run through after you've seen the movie.
Yep.
A lot of jump hopping to skip through.
Yeah, but we have timestamps, everything stamped out.
Exactly.
Go through, follow those. But let's get into the movie walkthrough. So what we're going to do is similar to our Freaks and Geeks episode with movies now. We're going to walk through the plot. Basically, not step by step. We're not going to get too into the weeds, but we do want to make sure we're talking about the important stuff that happens in the movie, basically.
Yeah, exactly. We want to make sure that we're not bouncing from the end to the beginning to the middle. We want to make sure that our takes are synchronized and they're in order. And if you're just listening, we want to make sure that you're understanding where we're going with this.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to start at the beginning. And in terms of the beginning of this one, holy shit, why would anyone make a song that's called this? They have so much fun with it. So it starts out with African Child.
I almost chipped my tooth in my glass.
I didn't see you were drinking, sorry. So we start out with African Child. And if it's a song that a British person made, and he calls himself it's for people to decide if he's an African white space Christ.
Yep, that was...
The crux of it is basically that you see this rock star that's just out of touch. And he's trying to pretend to do good things. Kind of like it was when celebrities went through a span of adopting children.
Oh, yeah. That was... Not to say that was a bad thing or a fad or anything, but there was a period of time where it was the Brad and Angelina phase where everybody was kind of hopping on the bandwagon, so to speak.
Look, the result was good.
Not even a bad way. Absolutely. Yeah. We're not putting that down in any way. But this was just insane that they started out this way and that he doesn't even film it in Africa. I mean,
and about potentially going there.
Who plays Jackie Q even says like, he's very passionate about Africa. He's never been, but he's really passionate.
She's like, he's very passionate. He's like really passionate about like potentially going there.
Yeah. What do you mean? You can tell from the first 3 minutes how just insane this person is and how out of touch they really are with what they're doing and how inflated their ego really is. Like, we know who Aldous is within the first 5 seconds.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing with Forgetting Sarah Marshall too, is that that's a huge ego. He has that whole sobriety thing going on, kind of holier than thou on everyone. And then it steps through. First thing we see is that he's gone off the rails with it. Mm-hmm. He's completely fake, trying to pretend like he's this savior of African children. And then, so that sobriety kind of ends. Him and his wife or girlfriend?
Yeah, I think so. It was his wife. I think Jackie Q and him were married for like 7 years, and they end up getting sober with each other and kind of going through this whole thing. But after getting sober, they go on a talk show, which kind of fuels the whole divorce thing. He's been sober for 7 years, and Jackie's basically like, "You're so boring. Like, this has been so boring." And he's like, "Oh, you've definitely been drinking." She goes, "Oh, I've had a few shots. What is it? Like, what does that mean to you?" They break up on live TV, really?
Yeah, so Jackie starts doing the same thing that he's doing. Like, so she falls off the wagon, and then just because it's more interesting this way in the movie, Aldous starts going crazy. All the paparazzi are after him. He's just like, they're filming his downfall of him being drunk all the time. But I mean, Jackie gets away scotch-free. Like, she did the same thing that he did. Granted, her antics afterwards probably weren't similar to his in this fake universe, but that's something I was like, oh wow, wait, she's okay.
Well, I love that they introduce everything too in like the tabloid headlines. So they're going through, and it's just like the quick after the album drops. It's like there's the headlines, and one of them, I mean, it's horrifying what they said, and so it's like, this album African Child is worse for Africa than apartheid. And then they go through, and then in the interview it's like Jackie's really antagonizing him for being sober, and then he's like, "What do you want me to do? You want me to hop off the rails again? I'll do lines off her forehead till I'm off my nuts in her." Yeah. Stuff like that, just going crazy, and you can tell he's about to dive off the deep end again.
Yeah, and so like we were talking about that whole, like, the paparazzi you're filming him. There were a lot of cameos in there, by the way. Like Mario Lopez, I think, did this like little extra thing. You got all real people, which made it kind of like really funny. And that was, I guess, what you would call like the first scene, cold open kind of thing. It closes out. We know Aldous is off the rails. He essentially is like kind of throwing his life away in a way. It looks like. But
it's a really just public downfall that I think people have seen in the past from real people, but this was on such a scale that he's like fighting the paparazzi, throwing it. So it's really just, a hyperbolized version of somebody going through the shit and then people being on top of them every 5 seconds, which for me, number one, it's not to say that people can't take photos of celebrities because there's a business and blah, blah, blah. Lay off people. I just don't like that a lot. I mean, more and more recently, it's been like, just back off.
You know what's funny is I think that it was really popular back in the day. I'm not a celebrity. I'm assuming celebrities still get annoyed with it. I don't think anyone ever would look at celebrities being just swamped with getting pictures taken of them and think it was okay. But what I will say is nowadays, everyone has a podcast like us.
Yeah.
The access to celebrities is so heightened that tabloids and paparazzi are like, doesn't matter. Kim Kardashian's gonna film herself walking out of her door anyways. You don't need to be there for pictures to be taken of them now.
I would even say it's even worse now because everybody is the paparazzi versus just people with cameras.
Other people. Yeah.
Every single person, like no matter who you are, where you are, what you do, there's always the opportunity for within 1 second the camera to be on you, which is an interesting thing to see. Like this movie was made in 2010.
Yeah.
There were all of them are using like flip phones and stuff. It's kind of cool to see the world without that because it's like the paparazzi were the paparazzi then. And I completely understand
seems so annoying.
Kanye video of "Good morning, Kanye. Shut the fuck up." Like,
yeah. Oh no, you can't blame him at all. And so that's the other thing I was thinking. Like, oh, okay, well, even if people are filming themselves or other people are filming, you can't really get the downfall that we did with All the Snow. But I mean, I don't know if I want the smoke for saying this. Army Hammer allegations and everything. I mean, that dude was filming himself doing drugs in a car with another person after he got accused of being a cannibal the day before. So I think people are going to find a way.
I mean, bad things. His grandpa bought Arm & Hammer. Let's move
no other statement other than that. Just saying it's possible.
His grandpa bought Arm & Hammer.
Our next character reveal.
We finally get past the Al the Snow intro. We get past this, like, where he is. So we see his fall from grace. It goes back and we get our intro to Jonah Hill, who's waking up, and his, I guess, long-term girlfriend, who's Elizabeth Moss, is coming home from her shift as a resident. She's a doctor. You can tell she's just not spending time with him. There's no, like, she gets in bed, he gets out of bed when he's waking up. She's doing overnight, like, just completely disconnected there. I think it's a really real thing that happens because healthcare workers are just on these weird ass shifts.
Yeah.
They're always coming in, going out. It's just like, that was a little dose of reality that was cool that they threw in.
That's something I thought was great in terms of just kind of how witty, or I guess how intelligent it was to have as a little subplot, because there are definitely a lot of people who are married, who are in relationships with healthcare workers. So you have this, like, how do we get them to be a little disassociated so Jonah Hill can think that he's broken up with his girlfriend? So what do we do? Have a really tired healthcare worker girlfriend that a lot of people can probably relate to, or you sympathize for, because you can't really be mad at someone for being tired because they're working overnight shifts to save people's lives.
Exactly, all the time.
She's a doctor.
And you can tell it's like 8 a.m. She's just getting back. And he's like, "Oh, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You want to get dinner?" She's like, "No, I'm so tired." And just throws on her shades and goes to bed. From there, I think...
right away, you can tell that they're both great people, too. Just the way that they're interacting, even when she's so tired. It's so heartwarming.
Just the, "Hi, you're funny." Like,
yeah, you're funny.
She's trying to... she keeps throwing out there when she's super tired. Just, "Hi, you're funny."
Yeah.
I love that it wasn't... because there's reactions for being tired. And I think that different people have different reactions, and how they deal with being overtired shows a lot about the person. If you're still very nice and almost giddy, I think that shows you're, genuinely open to helping people. You're a good person. Not to say that people who get angry and upset, because when I'm overtired, I get a little like testy. But
when I'm tired, I get I'm just like not as happy, I guess. If I'm overtired, I get like happy, like loopy. If I'm overtired, you can say anything to me, I'll laugh. But if I'm tired, I can. Sometimes it can be a little difficult to deal with. Yeah,
and I think that they did a good job of showing, like, she's not just yelling at him, because that would have taken you out and been like, "Oh, wow, the intro, I already hate her."
So let's go to his workplace. We have this basically ensemble scene because of the cameos, the small parts. So we have P. Diddy, Sean Combs, as the head of this group. They're in a meeting. So that's when you have Jonah Hill, Aziz Ansari, Nick Kroll, Jake Johnson, Ellie Kemper, all just sitting in a room, and they're kind of just throwing lines back and forth on how to kind of save the company, how to get it in the right direction. So that's when you have Jake Johnson being the jazz guy with his mustache. His phone goes off during the meeting. P. Diddy makes him throw his phone out of the office.
I love that interaction.
Throw the effing phone out of my office.
And I love that he's talking on the phone and he's just going like, no, he's making me answer the phone in the middle of the meeting as a power move. Yeah, no, he's definitely like, I love
he's definitely mad.
Just analyzing it right in front of him. I think that was a really underrated just like interaction. And that's the only time Jake Johnson is in the movie. Like that little cameo, he put a stamp on that scene.
He makes the absolute most of it. Like you don't need more of him because that's just so great right there.
That's like him being the principal in 21 Jump Street too, where he just has that one scene, makes the most of it, gets out of there.
Yeah, shout out Jake Johnson, man. That's the thing with Freaks and Geeks. It was fun to do one season, and it was a long episode. So again, if you listen to that, thank you. But if we could do like a whole episode on New Girl, I would love to, because I watched that during quarantine. It's fantastic.
I haven't seen it, so that's one thing. Like I gotta say, I've heard so much about New Girl. A lot of
content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other cameos in this scene are great. Basically, the main thing of this scene that we learned is that Jonah Hill is a huge fan of Aldous Snow. Mm-hmm. It's the 10-year anniversary of Aldous Snow's, discography.
No, it was the 10th anniversary of his live album at the Greek Theater.
Yep. So it was the live album at the Greek Theater,
like ever made.
Jonah Hill's idea to make the company money is to get him to do a live performance on the 10-year anniversary. And at first it gets laughed at, and they're like, who the fuck is Aldous? And then Diddy brings back in Jonah Hill and is like, he agreed to it. Go get his ass. You have 72 hours to go get Aldous Snow, bring him back, and get him to the Greek.
Yep. It was like 8 Mile.
Yeah.
It was super inspiring. So yeah, he has his direction. He knows what to do. So he goes to tell his girlfriend, and then it happens that there are 2 announcements going on. So Jonah Hill's like, hey, I have this opportunity of a lifetime. And she says, well, Daphne says like, hey, I got offered this residency in Seattle where I can work less hours. We can actually spend time together. Jonah Hill thinks they break up.
Yeah. What's your gauge on that situation? Because for me, I was like, you're not broken up, dude.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like between opportunity of a lifetime and you need to stay in LA versus Seattle. I think that's like, you talk about it another time. Yeah. I think that and obviously this is a movie, you have to make it interesting. I think really anyone in that situation wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, we're broken up. I think it would have been like, all right, let's pump the brakes. We'll talk about this another time.
Exactly.
I got to go to London right now.
Yeah. And the balls on Jonah Hill to just be like, are you in your period? Are you in your period? That was absurd.
That's almost a great part for her character too. Daphne just be like, you fucking kidding me? Like, no. And then just storming out. So we land in London. Aaron's there trying to pick up Aldous, and his manager answers the door and like super nice. And then Aldous comes out and is like, this was supposed to be in 2 months. Like, what are you talking about? And then you see that he has not only his mom, but his manager kind of on his side in this disillusioned world that they're just allowing him. They're kind of like yes people. Like they're just allowing him to live in this weird reality where it's all about him.
They're absolute yes men and women, because even his mom is sucked into this. And I think it's definitely for the money, I think, because he's so well off and kind of taking care of both of them. It's really just in the details that they're kind of using him for the money and just saying whatever he wants to hear. Maybe that's for his mental state too, after African Child dropped and kind of just destroyed his life.
Yeah.
But
even though he didn't think it destroyed his life, which is kind of like...
it did.
Well, I mean, it did destroy his life, but he's still living in this weird, like, false reality, this alternate reality. He thinks it was artistically fulfilling, and when you have yes men and women around like that, that's what happens. So he's still living this rock star life. Aaron comes, they're trying to get him out the door in like 3 hours. Yeah. That doesn't happen. They're going to bars. The pubs. Pubs. That's right. That he has his crew around, which by the way also have to be alcoholics and not like just leading him on. They're using him for his money. Then we have basically not the downfall, but a derivation from who you thought Jonah Hill's character was going to be.
Yeah, and I think we can say that Jonah Hill in this movie, Russell Brand is his foil.
Yeah.
I think that he is the opposite of what Jonah Hill thought that he was. You have this,
I just realized what you did there.
You did, right?
Yeah.
But
So,
no, you can definitely start to see like when Jonah Hill goes out with Aldous for the first night, when he's in London and Aldous is like, no, we're fine, we'll make the flight. Goes out, has an absolutely absurd night, and it to me seemed like that was Jonah Hill's first night out in like 9 years, because it seemed like even when he was in the office, Aziz was like, oh man, you missed it, it was the best party. He's like, wish I could have gone. Like for some reason he's holding himself back, whether it be at those work parties, whether it be like going out in general, and I think it might be his relationship, it might be just the person he is.
I think that's like what we're led to believe is the relationship. I mean, like that's another thing. When you are in a relationship with someone with those hours, your life changes too, I'm sure. So you probably can't do all the things that Aziz and Nick Kroll can do and go and sit next to each other and Jay-Z's and Beyonce's their bidets.
We also didn't say anything about Nick Kroll's mohawk in this.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
He's supposed to be some pop guy who gave the world Chocolate Daddy.
I found the next Alicia Keys. Who's your last signing? Chocolate Daddy.
Proud of those units.
That was so good.
So yeah, basically he's having a lot of trouble. I mean, when Aldous Snow especially it's your idol, even though you have this awesome opportunity, you're trying to do your best. When he's saying, nope, next pub, let's go to this club. You're just like, well, I can't say no. He's very confident, but we find, well, Jonah Hill has sex with some random girl. They're going off.
He's off the rails completely.
Completely off the rails. He gets him to have a great night. So at one point in the night, Jonah Hill does buy in, and he's like, oh yeah, let's do it. But ends up like just getting really drunk, puking in a toilet, ending up in bed, and then freaking out because he really needs to get Aldous back this next morning. Mm-hmm. So.
And they're sprinting through. They're in the cab, and like Jonah Hill's like, "Oh, we have 30 minutes to make an international flight." Like that's fine. That's fine. That's completely fine. Somehow they make the flight because the taxi driver's like, "I'll take the Lou to the 12," and then he's like, "Can you just fucking go?"
One of my favorite lines of this. He's like, "Would you like me to take the Chiswick roundabout or something like that?" And then, sorry if that was a horrible accent, but
no,
then,
it was good. It was good.
Jonah Hill goes, "What is this fucking Middle Earth?"
That was so good. They finally make the flight. So they make the flight, and then this is the first like real interaction we had. And for some reason, Russell Brand is just on a bender, constant. So this is the one time he has to really just talk one-on-one with Jonah Hill. And he wakes him up in his seat. Jonah can't get sleep ever in this movie. Ever.
No.
So he goes to a seat. They finally have the chance to discuss African Child. And we've been prompted before by Diddy to just be like, you mind fuck the shit out of him. You tell him that African Child is the best thing you've ever heard in your entire life. And for real, when they get into the conversation, which you really have fucking respect for Jonah Hill because you just see him being honest.
Yeah, being honest, and something that I kind of just realized is also he does represent the label, even though he's not super established yet. He's just kind of one of like the lower workhorse kind of people. It is almost like it's advice from a standpoint, not only a fan, but of the business side of things. And he's just like, I think you did what the label told you to do. And then he starts peppering it on, and all this gets so pissed. Yeah. He's a layer of respect peppered with hate.
Which you gotta respect the guy, because he's been like, Aldous has been surrounded by these yes men since that happened for however long, like 8 years, 9 years. And he hasn't had the chance to really come to terms with what he did or how terrible it really was. Because when you surround yourself with people who are just going to be like, no, it was great. Everyone else is wrong. You're just like, I'm still the best. Like, what's wrong with these people? And you go farther down. So I think this was the final, like, real wake-up call to be like, all right, okay, this guy's going to tell me the truth. He's going to shoot straight. And I think I like that. I like that they threw that in there.
No, yeah, I absolutely do too. I think it was really important for both of these characters. They kind of get it out in the open because Jonah Hill is like such a true fan that like he kind of needs to tell him that. And when they're talking, he asks what Jonah Hill, or well, this is actually at the pub, but he asks Jonah Hill, but he would play on the Today Show. So then when they get to the Today Show, after Jonah Hill has already tried to take away drugs and alcohol from Russell Brand by consuming them himself. So he's really
literally
up.
all of them. He's like, oh, let me get a little whiskey, and then just drinks the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Russell Brand pulls out a joint, and he's like, let me get a puff. And he's struggling to inhale it. He's like, just let me.
Don't be a bitch, man. Let me get my smoke on.
Let me get. I love that. And so on the plane, something I just want to mention is a little connection. We see Kristen Bell as Sarah Marshall in Blind Medicine on the plane.
Yeah.
And Russell Brand, Aldous looks like, hears through the headphones. He's like, I think I messed around with that girl. And then he puts on the headphones and hears her like in the scene just going like, oh. And then he's like, oh yeah, I did. Like, doesn't even remember.
Yeah, so it was seemingly so important, their relationship, in forgetting Sarah Marshall, that he's just like, oh yeah, I guess I did have sex with her.
I guess I went on a whole vacation with her.
But going back,
Today Show was great.
Where the Today Show, Jonah Hill is just raising hell, and Russell Brand is trying to do African Child. That's how everything's teed up to be. And he can't remember the lyrics. So he's running around. Jonah Hill is running around, that is. And then it actually starts. The song starts. They start playing African Child. Russell Brand just stops because he doesn't know what to do. And then he starts playing the clap, which is what Jonah Hill told him to do. Yeah, a song about gonorrhea.
Literally a song about the clap. And people are loving it.
Oh yeah, he's showing he's putting the microphone in people's faces, and they're like, "Yeah, I got the clap.
I got the itch." What do you mean?
It's obviously just a patently ridiculous song, but it's so well made. Like if you replace the lyrics, it would be an awesome song. So everyone's just getting hype. You see that Aldous trusts Jonah Hill, trusts Aaron, and we actually have this kind of really nice moment. And then so afterwards they're all jacked up, they're together, and they're like, yes, this is what we're doing. Like basically it seems like Aldous is back.
Yeah. And like I love that scene for so many reasons, just because Jonah Hill is this is the first time you see him like, so he had that night before in London, completely off his rocker, comes to New York on a red eye, I'm assuming, off his rocker again because he drank a whole thing of whiskey and smoked a joint. Now he's sprinting through Rockefeller Center to try and find the lyrics to this song. Yeah. And actually throws up on himself, and then sees like, this is where Meredith Vieira comes in, and he's like, hey, my mom loves your shit.
And then who is it? Paul Kruger? Yeah. Are you Paul Kruger? My dad loves your shit.
Paul Krugman. So when they were filming that live clap scene, Russell Brand almost chipped his tooth when he was running around doing that whole filming. Just something like behind the scenes that you wouldn't really think about. Kind of like I almost did earlier in the episode, chip my tooth. Russell Brand kind of did the same thing. So later that night, of course, they go to another club. It gets crazy and they run wild. Okay, this is the first occurrence of this. Why does he keep pocket dialing Daphne? How does that keep happening?
At movies.
Yeah.
Real answer, movies. If you want me to play along, I think that he's just really careless.
Obviously, it's a plot device, but what?
That's the thing. I actually just don't have a good answer.
There's no good answer. No. But like, he pocket dials. She hears all this stuff. It kind of puts a strain on their relationship. She thinks they're together. He thinks they're broken up. That next night, next morning, they're going to the airport. They're on their way to LA. Russell Brand gets some heroin. They're on their way to LA in the airport. And Jonah Hill has to keister it to get it through security for him because he won't do it himself.
Yeah. And so something that I did want to point out is that it's kind of interesting that we see, I mean, he's sick. We do sympathize with him that he's such a drug addict, even though he just came off his high. He's had a fantastic performance. He calls Jackie, and Lars Ulrich, who is the freaking drummer of Metallica, is hanging out with Jackie. Obviously, like, they're having sex and stuff. So he gets really depressed, and then that's when he goes and buys heroin on the street the pretzel that he says.
Oh, when he needs pretzels, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like there is a reason that he goes to get heroin, basically, specifically. Like he was just gonna drink and smoke weed, which is one thing, and then when he gets his downfall, he here's Lars Ulrich, and that's actually a really funny interaction between him and Lars Ulrich. But we have this really sympathetic moment for him. We're like, oh man, he's going to buy heroin, but then he makes Jonah Hill put it up his ass. Because I don't think it's going to be in my favorite lines later. One of my favorite lines in this entire movie is when he's calling P. Diddy, and he's like, I don't know what to do. He's trying to make me put heroin up my ass. He's like, it's just a little bit of heroin in your ass. It's just so funny.
Makes him shove it up there. He's like, you got the cards now. He basically saying he is the leverage, and soon we learn that that's just not the case. But Jonah Hill like convinces Aldous to go and see his dad, thinking that it would be after the concert, after they make it to LA, after they go see the concert. And then they just walk up to the booth, completely change the flight. They end up going to Vegas. Just 2 first-class tickets right to Vegas, kind of that same day. Instead of going to LA, they're putting in jeopardy their ability to get to the Greek. And they go see his dad, who really just left Aldous when he was a kid. And they haven't really communicated since then, but his dad takes a lot of credit for everything he's done, which is a really not great guy move to do.
Yeah, his dad's kind of like a piece of garbage, but you see that Aldous is almost at a point of acceptance just because he's kind of so messed up that he has this altered perception of reality that he's like, oh no, this is okay. Like, I get it. This is what my dad did. Not really too great, but then, so P. Diddy actually knows that they're all in Vegas. He shows up to Vegas, even though literally on the phone when he tells him they're not. And he gives them the Jeffrey. So then we get our Jeffrey scene, which is probably, I would say, the most, like the scene that people would remember most.
I would say that there's one scene right before the Jeffrey that does need a mention.
Did we? Absinthe?
No, I mean that too, but also, so Jonah Hill destroys the heroin when he gets there to Vegas. And Aldous is like, you need to go get me more heroin. So he walks downstairs to the receptionist, who is TJ Miller, and it spells out, I need a guest. And he spells out heroin. Mm-hmm. And the guy's like, you're going to come here and fucking blah, blah, blah. You're going to say this. You're going to say a guest name is heroin. He's like, meet me up back in 15. Jonah Hill goes on this excursion with TJ Miller, who turns into this complete, like, different person, drives some car that would look like it's Fast and Furious, goes to this house. TJ Miller ends up getting stabbed. Jonah Hill drops him at the hospital, not even at the door, and then just goes back. And that's like a 1-minute cutaway scene.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people that work reception desks at Las Vegas casinos are probably like that. If you do, I'm sorry, but I bet you might know someone that's at least similar to that.
Probably get asked that question a decent amount too. And I love the line where he gets back and he's like, I couldn't find any. And then Aldous is just like, it's remarkably easy to find drugs in Las Vegas. Yeah. He's like, I got them already. But then we get to the Jeffrey.
Yeah, they keep doing drugs in Las Vegas. That's for sure. So
that's the place to do it. That's the place to do them. We get to the Jeffrey. We get to the club that night. There's massive hotel room. It's Aldous, his dad, some girls, P. Diddy, and Jonah Hill. They're all hanging out. And to basically mindfuck them, Diddy gives them a Jeffrey. And I'll list out the contents for you, and you just tell me if you think it's safe. Because I would probably say no.
Okay.
It's weed mostly.
All right.
Opium, heroin, subtext, crunched up E's, Clorox, methadone, morphine, peyote, and some other stuff that's unidentifiable, and a little bit of angel dust.
It's like a drug Neapolitan, right? I mean, it's just an incredible mixture of things there, which obviously Jonah Hill thinks he's just taking a hit of weed, and then it turns out it's this weird concoction that for whatever reason Russell Brand and his dad are just like, oh yeah, no, we're chilling. he starts freaking out, and then the single worst thing that anyone does in this entire movie is when Russell Brand's dad, so Jonah Hill starts freaking out. He's like, I'm having a heart attack. I don't know what to do. Jonah Hill's dad, or his dad's like, he is having a heart attack, I think. Like, he
probably is. I think he is.
What a horrible, horrible thing to do to someone.
They always say to scare the person who's having a bad trip. That's the best thing you could do. Yep. It's like waking somebody up when they're sleepwalking. They always say to do that.
If there's two things that your buddies at Sincerely Unqualified can tell you, folks, if someone's having a bad trip, freak them out. See what happens. Maybe give them sharp objects.
Yes.
If someone's sleepwalking, wake them up. Give them sharp objects.
Yep, just yell in their face and say, oh, and then just see what,
What do you have to do to wake them up?
I'm not going to do it again. You can.
Come on,
I'm not going to do it.
Come on.
But just wake him up.
But nice. So then we have the Jeffrey. We're stroking the furry wall to calm everyone down. They get away. P. Diddy gets hit by a car, but he's chilling, you know?
P. Diddy's like, I'm gonna line my new house's walls with this shit.
No, the outside walls. He said, my house is gonna look like Wolverine.
It's so good. I think that the furry wall was such a great touch because it's like, even though it feels like the Jeffrey is new, it feels like Aldous and his dad know what the Jeffrey is. Even though, number one, they haven't connected in so long. Number two, they've done it separately on separate occasions. Mm-hmm. They're both just like, that's the thing with the Jeffrey. It goes away and it comes right back. But
that's the worst thing.
To
do that this way, it comes back.
But
what do you?
I do like that it shows like Aldous is taking, Aaron under his wing a little bit, and he's taking care of him. He's finally found somebody that he actually cares about, other than Naples, of course, and he's just taking him under his wing, and it shows real, I think, a real bump up in his character.
Yeah, this is kind of like his arc is finally forming at this point. Yeah. So we have that happen. They're going back. They finally are on their way to LA. We think that Russell Brand, he's going to be good to go. Obviously, him and Jonah Hill aren't at a good point, so they kind of separate. They go back, or Jonah Hill goes back to Daphne. They got an apology going. It gets a little weird.
A little bit odd, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like the weirdest apology in the entire world.
Especially weird because when Aldous they were
he just
apart,
crashes it.
Just comes back while he's just apologizing, and then
walks up to the window, not even the door.
Yeah. Well, and then what else would you do other than suggest a threesome? I mean, seems logical.
That's what you should do in that situation.
If I had a nickel.
Look, if you see your friends in a relationship arguing, the number one thing to do is ask for a threesome.
Yes. Three things.
Yes.
Someone's having a bad trip. Wake them up. Give them sharp objects.
Should we just start an advice podcast?
Yeah. Hey, write into us. If you need advice, we will give you the best advice this side of the Mississippi. Both sides, actually. So that's just the entire United States.
All of it. Yep. The entire world is on one or the other side of the Mississippi.
Entire world. So best world advice here. Sincerely Unqualified. Write us in. sincerelyunqualified@gmail.com. DM us. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, anything.
Disclaimer, please do not do any of these things. Thank you.
No, let us know. Give us any takes you need from us. We'll let you know.
Any good takes. But any original thoughts.
So yeah, they get caught up in this weird threesome. They both don't end up wanting to do it. All this is like, oh, that's weird. I guess during this scene, actually, though,
they do it.
They were, but then they get a little freaked out. During the scene, before what I would assume the threesome was, when they're actually filming the apology, there was like a 4.0 on the Richter scale earthquake when they were filming it. So Jonah's reaction in the take was included in the DVD gag reel, but obviously you can't just put that into this movie. That would be really weird.
Yeah, it would be a little odd to have like a real earthquake reaction. People in the background with like the boom operator just in the back being like, okay.
What is going on?
Yeah. So that would be like an earthquake happening right now to you, and we would probably just keep
would leave it in. We leave everything in.
We leave
pretty much
like our good advice.
Oh, hey, look, people need this advice. You're gonna take it to the bank. Let's go.
So after this awkward threesome takes place, we see that Daphne is like thrown off. They kind of like reconnect, but also it's in such a weird place. They're apologizing. Jonah Hill is in such an odd headspace. He hates Aldous at this point. Aldous is on his own, super lonely, like just has nobody. Even his mom is just kind of like, he's like, oh, can you say something nice to me? She's like, I don't know. Like, kind of
just stay
you're
chipper.
my special boy.
Yeah.
Like, something like
Not
that.
great. Yeah, he's looking for good advice from his mom. Can't really get it. So we're still feeling bad for all this, obviously.
Yeah. He's just a lonely guy. I mean,
Yeah, he's
sad.
He's a sad guy.
I like that this shows, like, no matter how famous you are, at your lowest point, like, you can be so lonely.
Yeah, it is a good
depressed.
message because I think now with, especially back then, I think that this was important. Again, I think that with this access to celebrity, it might be a little different now because now there's a huge focus on mental health, and people with platforms are the ones that you see the most. So, when you say a celebrity does it, then you're like, oh, okay, this also does happen. Money doesn't just solve things. So, unfortunately for all this, Snow ends up basically trying to kill himself. He's really messed up. I'm assuming drunk, probably on a lot of drugs. And then
doesn't work.
Aaron runs in and is like, hey, we're good. You don't have to do this. And then he jumps, breaks his arm from hitting it on the pool.
Crazy fall. Oh. That was a crazy fall. Like he did it backwards.
And everyone's there just like, yeah, do it. Like, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Just like, that was like an Almost Famous moment.
Oh,
except he missed.
That's a good movie.
I'm on drugs.
Topeka. So he gets him all cleaned up. Jonah Hill's basically asking him not to do the concert at this point. He's like, dude, let's get you to the hospital. He's like, no, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And
exposed bone is out.
Yeah. So we have P. Diddy's character coming to a weird arc in the fact that like he's likable this whole time, and then he kind of turns into like the antagonist. He's like, no, we'll just like pump him up with drugs and then he'll be good to go. So you see that he's just money driven. I mean, you knew that the whole time. He owns 21 kookaroos.
Oh, absolutely.
But
21, and nobody else owns one kookaroo.
Not one.
I love that he had to be corrected. It was 20 at first, and then they're like, no, it's 21.
So he's money motivated. Him and Aaron obviously had this huge, great relationship arc coming back. We're good to go. And
kids.
But
he's got to afford 6 kids.
He's got to afford all those Air Jordans. I think he says Air Jordans. I would say Jordans, but we see his money motivatedness just being rearing its ugly head, but he does it. We do the show. Yeah. He starts out with I'm Coming Up, I think is the title of the song that his dad suggests to do. So first we have
I'm Going Up or I'm Coming Up? It might be I'm Coming Up. Yeah, I think it's I'm Coming Up.
I'm actually not certain on that. But so we have the one song suggestion from Jonah Hill's character during the Today Show. And then we have his dad's suggestion. So, he's actually listening to people now. He kind of feels like he has a support system, even though his relationship with his dad isn't great. And it is an awesome, honestly, that song is a perfect opener at a concert.
Oh, yeah. And it is I'm Coming Up. Yeah, it's awesome. And to follow that up with the smash hit Bangers and Mash.
Dude.
Bangers, Beans, and Mash.
Yeah.
The international sensation that is Bangers, Beans, and Mash.
I'm holding everything back to not sing it.
Just do it. No. We want to hear it.
Will you come for my bangers?
Thank you. All right.
My beans and mash.
So good. It's actually like, and this is what I was talking about before. I said that Inside of You is the greatest song from a comedy.
Yeah.
And what did they do?
Gave you bangers and mash.
Followed it up with an entire album.
Yeah.
They were like, that, you liked it? Well, here's a fucking lot more of them. Here's a whole movie's worth.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up the track list, actually. But so it goes through.
I think it's on Spotify.
Yes, I know it is because I've listened to the album quite a few times.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
The resolution at the end, we're 6 months later, and Aaron and Daphne are living in Seattle, and Aldous gets a hit from the song Furry Walls.
Great song.
Yeah. He's doing this talk show. It's really funny. He's kind of like doing a little stand-up before, it seems like. And super endearing. Everything's going great in basically everyone's lives.
So I love that they ended it with the bit of stand-up, like a little hint at the stand-up aspect.
Oh, with Russell Brand, yeah.
I love, like, he's very polarizing in the stand-up. And it's either I feel like you love it or you hate it. And I love Russell Brand's stand-up.
Yeah, I
think...
I actually don't quite know where I stand with it. I know a few people, actually, who really do dislike Russell Brand.
Yeah.
I kind of I think I respect what he's able to do. It's the same vein as Jason Segel, of these incredibly funny people who are so talented musically. So like when I look at this movie, I can't really objectively say anything of his is bad after, because I think it's so unique and I think he's so talented in his own right.
Yeah. And his stand-up is so unique in, like, it's more of him, because he's such a quick thinker and quick talker that he can get on one point, even if it's on live TV or it's a stand-up routine, and just go off on that point and say so many things, and you're almost left thinking if you're not following, and it can be a little distracting overall. But when he hits it, like, I don't know how to specifically describe it. It's such a
I get what you're saying.
Different
it's
traditional.
A unique take on how he does things, and honestly, stand up, any comedy in general, movies, like we see that everything it's subjective. You can look at a drama film and point out certain things. You can look at convention. You can look at all this story. A lot of the time, comedy, certain people find certain things funny, and that's okay. Like we were just talking about Freaks and Geeks. We posted something about Seth Rogen, I believe, and I was floored to hear that people didn't like Seth Rogen. There are a lot of people.
That was allowed.
I literally did not know anyone disliked him. So you have different takes on everything.
Yeah, and it's very similar. Like Russell Brand, people can dislike him for whatever they want, but it's very similar, his stand-up, to like what Ricky Gervais does, because I feel like they take reality. They take things from reality and just make fun of the absurdity of how it sounds when you look at it through a different lens.
Yeah.
So those two are very unique in that style. But, they're pretty similar. You want to jump into the next section?
Yeah. I think we can wrap it up. I mean, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought that it wrapped up really well. I really liked the scene at the end. I mean, I am a guy who really likes when things just end happy, and I don't think that it's like you have to do it correctly, and I think this was done correctly. This was done extremely intelligently in having this resolution of this talk show kind of thing, and it showed Russell Brand doing exactly what he does really well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that this was the perfect casting for Russell Brand, both in Forgetting Sarah Marshall and then the continuation. I think bringing Jonah Hill back was perfect. I think that they did it very well, and the cast just made it that much better.
Yep. But yeah, let's get into some Inexclusive Exclusives. Winnie has a date to get on. So cute.
Incredible. My first date.
Winnie's first date.
First date ever.
We're a little nervous for him. I'm going to be, actually, we're keeping on Zoom, and I'm going to be talking him through everything.
It's going to be in my pocket. I have like a little earpiece.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. Google Glasses too.
Impractical Joker style.
So let's start out with the exclusives now. Mine is going to be around the Forgetting Sarah Marshall tie. So Jonah Hill's character, Aaron, was actually originally supposed to be the same character, quote unquote, that he played in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, the waiter Matthew, that was obsessed with Aldous. But it was quickly changed when he thought Matthew was like just too weird and stalkerish. I think basically that character lived exactly how it was supposed to in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and it was perfect for what it was, but it would have been straight up bad in this movie.
Weird. There's no redeeming that guy. Like, no. I'm going to be honest, if that was who they thought to bring into that, like, you need a separation there.
Yeah, and like you would need so much back, like the original backstory that we had was, okay, how does Russell Brand get to this point when we know him in Forgetting Sarah Marshall? You would have had to have that. And then how the hell does this guy who is a waiter in Hawaii
and a weirdo
get to be in this music company? So definitely new character was fantastic. Second fact.
Necessary.
Yeah. Second fact here, in order to get the right angry reaction from P. Diddy in their interaction when he's talking about how to deal with all this snow, they were actually Jonah Hill was interrupting him during his sentences to get him legitimately angry. So he was trying his best just to actually get him annoyed with him. So the reactions would be very genuine.
It's so funny.
It worked.
Just purposely try to piss somebody off.
It's so funny.
It's probably so fun.
Oh, it has to, especially someone like P. Diddy. If it was just a random person, it would have been like, whatever. If you're working with P. Diddy and he's already giving a good performance, to be like cutting into him, just trying to piss him off, that sounds fun.
Feel like super bad Jonah Hill can just interrupt the fuck out of you and just piss you off so easily. Just like, what? Yeah, that would have been hilarious. Going off that, some of the reality of it, similar to Diddy actually getting a little upset, there was reality in the scenes with the crowds, specifically at the O2, which is a really famous arena in London. So Russell Brand's scenes when he was performing as the rock star Aldous Snow were filmed at his sellout comedy show, Scandalous, in front of 20,000 real fans. And afterwards, kind of during and after the filming, Jason Segel and Jack Black met him on the stage, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's the trio that we were talking about. Jason Segel, Russell Brand, Jack Black, and I guess Kyle Gass and Tenacious D. The fact that they actually have a band, and the Tenacious D movie, if you know, that is awesome. I love Tenacious D. I love the Tenacious D movie. The fact that they played O2 and just everyone was genuinely impressed shows their musical talent, because you can't just be funny. You need it actually to be produced well. You need it to be written well musically. And those people are just absolute rock stars at that.
Oh yeah. And
no pun intended.
Like you said, you're not just getting the O2. You can't just be like, hey, we're gonna film here one night. It's like, no. You have to sell it out and you have to bring something to it.
Yeah.
They're not just handing that out on a silver platter. That's like being like, hey, we're just going to take over Radio City Music Hall one night, please.
Yeah, no big deal.
Or we're just going to take over MSG.
Yeah,
it's
I was going to say
than Radio City by
much
a
bigger
lot.
than Radio City.
We're going to take over MSG for a night if that's cool.
Yeah, not going to happen.
No, it is not.
In terms of filming the actual movie, though, there was so much improv in this that they said that a single scene of dialogue would sometimes take up an entire day. So
I can see that.
Yeah, especially the two, stars of the movie in Jonah Hill and Russell Brand. You get those two quipping back and forth, and then that's when you have. I bet that the scene where it was we were talking about P. Diddy throw that phone out of my office. All of those people, all those people who had small parts, I bet that took multiple days.
For sure. With all that talent in the room, you had Aziz, Nick Kroll, you had Jake Johnson, you had Ellie Kemper, you had Jonah Hill, you have P. Diddy, you have everybody in the scene. I can see, number one, people dying every take, dying laughing.
Oh, yeah. And you bring those type of people in specifically for improv, too.
Yeah. There was probably so much extra footage of just, toss away lines that they threw in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Chocolate Daddy stuff with Nick Kroll was improv or not. I'm sure that they had a basic thing for the artist. You're going to say an artist and let's see where it goes.
Make the money,
that was so good. I love when they toss in the song in the background there too. It's gonna fuck your bitch. Gonna fuck your bitch.
No, so that's what's funny is that's not Chocolate Daddy. And then
that's the new wave of stuff.
Yeah.
That he was saying.
During just a random scene 20 minutes later or something, you hear the Chocolate Daddy song just in the background. Chocolate Daddy, make the money.
That's so good. So, like we're saying with these songs, So for the Infant Sorrow songs throughout the movie, these incredible masterpieces that we heard throughout, the writers of the songs that were performed by Infant Sorrow included Carl Barrett, would you say?
Carl Barrett, yeah.
Barrett, Jason Segel, Judd Apatow, and Jarvis Cocker. These masterminds came together and created the album for this movie.
Yeah, and we couldn't thank them enough for it because the songs are so ridiculous, but they're so funny.
Yeah, I know. And like, I just love that they perform some of them live too.
Yeah. I mean, you have to get those live performances in, no doubt.
Yeah. And for like a little dose of like the reality and the live performances too. So when they were filming in Trafalgar Square in London, Russell Brand was pushed into the fountain by just a guy in the public. Just a member of the public pushed him in the fountain.
Crazy. Do you think that person got like arrested for assaulting Russell Brand, or was it just kind of like, oh, funny?
I don't know what the reaction would have been. Like,
no, what do you do?
Like, I don't know if you say that's assault or if you use the footage.
I'm not like, oh, arrest him, that's assault. But when I would assault. I don't know what I would do if I was like, I don't know, some like think about a production assistant on set just seeing someone run in, push Russell Brand into a fountain when you're shooting a scene, just like, what? What's happening?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Who is this guy? What is it, fucking jackass?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
Insane.
I know that. I don't understand that.
No.
But
no.
Something that wasn't real though, that was kind of cool that they did was in the movie. You'll notice that there's some scenes where Jonah Hill is visibly like supposed to be messed up or drunk or anything.
Yeah.
So Stoller thought it would be cool to attach a head ring to Jonah so you see his perspective kind of as he moves.
Yeah, like
And
blurry.
as he walked around, it really just looks like him. So they got this idea from Fear Factor on MTV, which is really just kind of an inventive way to get that film style from. He said, in quotes, "That's my film school," is Fear Factor.
Shout out Joe Rogan, come on the pod.
Which is really cool.
The other thing with Jonah Hill is that, and improv, which was around my last fact, is actually when he gets stabbed with the adrenaline needle, there wasn't a line written for him. He was just supposed to get up, but he just screams, "I'm alive," which is actually hilarious. That could only come from the mind of Jonah Hill, most likely. And the last one here, we need an Apatow fact because you know we're Apatow guys. So
clearly,
just a quick quote coming from Apatow on his Russell Brand love. He said, "Russell is an incredibly funny, remarkable, charming man, and we wanted to present him as he is, as much as possible." So that's when it starts getting crazy. And then he reveals all this is actually a toned down version of Russell, which is crazy.
I mean, not to say that I can't see that being the case, but definitely coming from somebody else is an interesting fact. Jumping right off that, I'm going to just dive right into my favorite character, which was Russell Brand in this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
we usually don't do main characters.
No, but in this case, it's warranted.
There was a limited number of, integral characters in this movie, I'd say.
Yeah.
And his performance was not only to be like the lead singer of this band and produce these massive hits, like international chart superstars. Yeah. He was just funny throughout. I thought that some of the lines that he had were the best. I think that the overall gist of like where his character started and where he ended was awesome. I think that he was just overall hilarious. Yeah.
I also think he just did really well in terms of his arc. Like his bottom and his resolution were so believable. And you wanted that resolution so bad for him, which I think is just an absolute credit to Russell Brand. Mine is, I would argue, an integral character. It's not like the, Russell Brand, Jonah Hill. It's not Jonah Hill, but it is Sean Combs, P. Diddy. P. Diddy in this movie has so many lines that are fantastic. One of them is going to be my favorite line, but going into him in my favorite scene it's the character introduction of him when they're all in that meeting. We were just talking about it. Probably took a few days. he had so many lines in that. We already mentioned, I own 20 cuckoos, 21, sir. I own 21 cuckoos.
Yeah, it's so good.
He's like, I'm going to be fine. Or everyone loves chicken. I am going to be fine. Like just a few others. Like
everyone loves chicken.
Yeah. And he like just throughout the movie too. But in terms of that scene, it's just so good. Throw that phone out of my office. The character, like the performance he's giving is so believable for just such a ridiculous character to make people do things. I mean, this scene to me, and we already mentioned it. We already mentioned a lot about it, so I won't harp on it more. But just the cameos that you have, so strong, ridiculously
strong. Good. Yeah, absolutely. I think those really do such a great job in solidifying like this scene.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
For me, this scene was so up my alley for so many reasons.
It's so good.
And I mean, I forgot about it. I forgot that it even existed in the movie. It's the heroin scene with TJ Miller where they just go on this excursion to find heroin and he gets stabbed and left at the hospital. And not even, he's like, you can't even walk me to the door.
Why didn't you take me to the door?
It's just so good.
My favorite line in that scene though is so like this random guy is like his roommate, like his adult roommate. He's like, what are you doing in my room, dude?
Yeah, just he changes into these just like trailer park boys clothes. He's in a full tux and then just changes. It's so good. Yeah, it's so good. I love the car too. Like literally, Jonah Hill's just like, I feel like I'm in Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah. Let's go into lines here. So mine is from my favorite character in my favorite scene, and he's like, Aziz mentions that they should buy this phone company, and he's like, does anyone know about phones? And Nick Kroll loudly says that he doesn't. He's like, you know something? You should. Don't be proud of your ignorance. Don't be proud of your ignorance is hilarious.
That's so good. I gotta go with another statement like that, similar to that from Russell Brand, where it's like the threesome scene, and it's right before that when he meets Daphne for the first time, and he's like, you know when you hear about someone and you meet them, that's happening now. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. It's just a funny line.
Thanks for that statement.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Russell.
So good.
With Russell Brand, when Jonah finally shows up and you're realizing that his mom and his manager are just being a yes man and yes woman, it's when Russell Brand, you can tell he's upset, and then he's just being treated as this man child. So his mom asks if he wants a biscuit, obviously like a cookie, and then his manager goes, a lolly, codeine. So it's like they're saying these things that would console a 6-year-old, and then his manager says, and then codeine.
Just some nice codeine.
Yeah.
Just toss that in there. It's on the same level.
Why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. For me, I'm between two for my final line, but
just give them both. Let's be wild.
I think I'm going to give them both. Okay, so one of them is with Diddy and Jonah Hill, and it's I'm mind fucking the shit out of you from Diddy. And Jonah Hill just goes, hope you're wearing a condom because I have a dirty mind. Just silence right after that.
Yeah.
And then another is in the Vegas scene when the security guard comes back and Diddy's like, where were you? And then you're like, we went to see Cher. And he goes, Cher? How was it? And they just go, amazing.
Yeah, Devon McDonald is so good at this. And in my scene, the one that we were talking about when P. Diddy's like, y'all are fucked. He goes, y'all are fucked. Yeah. Diddy goes, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
this movie had so many great lines, which is why I think alone. And also, it's a good story. Like we talked about, it follows the arc. It's a redemptive arc. It's something that people love. So it's why I'm kind of surprised it had as low of a rating as it did on Rotten Tomatoes, because you had so many great lines. I do think that this movie, I can officially put the underrated stamp on it.
I'm agreeing with you. I think that we can stamp it underrated for sure.
Absolutely.
Needs to be rewatched by, most, if not all, if you enjoy the movies that we review.
Yes. Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, and honestly, it might be one that you just need to rewatch. So if you didn't think you really liked it, and you want to come back to it, I would absolutely suggest you do, especially like you said. If you like the movies we review, you're going to like this one.
Yeah, and it came out so long ago. Like for us, it's like you see it in theaters, you think you know it all, you rewatch it, you realize, oh shit, there's so much that I didn't pick up on here.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for this week. Again, we did not talk about which one we're going to do next week, but we will have another great movie or two for you. Who knows?
Yep.
Until then, I'm Kevin.
I'm Winnie.
We'll see you at the next episode.
You gotta go get a fucking kookaroo.
Kookaroo.